So you want to win the lottery. Take the US Mega Millions for example. You choose 5 numbers between 1 and 70 and then another number between 1 and 25. Mathematically, and this is the point you should probably turn the video off if you're a gambler, this means there are 302,575,350 possible number combinations for the Mega Millions lottery. Obviously, only one of the combinations will prove to be the winning numbers, so you have a 1 in 302,575,350 chance of winning. That's about a 0.0000033% chance of winning. So if you had the winning numbers, you could say that's a pretty lucky ticket, if you were prone to vastly understating the nature of things. So what about all the losing lottery tickets? Would you say they were unlucky? Well, considering a ticket has about a 99.9999967% chance of losing, probably not. Obviously, there are lotteries outside the Mega Millions with their own rules and configurations of numbers, but the probability of winning any of them, second warning to gamblers, is extremely low. Losing is the expected outcome. So how bad would a lottery ticket have to be for you to consider it unlucky? The lottery would have to have a losing number as well as a winning number, and in the extremely unlikely case you got the losing number, the officials would show up at your house and kill your family or something. Then you could say that's an unlucky ticket, but unfortunately they don't yet do that. So how unlucky could a lottery ticket possibly be? Tonda Dickerson was working as a waitress at a Waffle House in Grand Bay, Alabama, USA in 1999. She was in her late 20s, divorced, and a single mother, working at the diner to pay the bills. And Waffle House is no joke either. They're open 24 hours, 365 days of the year, with an extensive disaster management plan to ensure they can stay open even during events like hurricanes. Their dedication to staying open is used as an informal metric by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to determine the severity of a disaster. A former head of FEMA has said if you go to a disaster zone and the Waffle House is closed, that's how you know shit is really fucked up. These guys don't close shop for anything short of an all-out apocalypse. This is to say that Tonda Dickerson was the sort of person the lottery wants to win. They want to be like, see this loser? She was slaving away at Waffle House to pay her bills and support her snot-nosed brat. Then she bought a lottery ticket and now she can say fuck Waffle House, fuck the bills, and fuck that kid, because she's a millionaire. Every company wants to show you how great your life will be if you buy their product, but Tonda Dickerson didn't actually buy a lottery ticket. On March 6, 1999, Tonda Dickerson was serving Edward Seward at Waffle House. Seward was a trucker, a regular at Waffle House, and gave Dickerson a tip in the form of a lottery ticket he had picked up on one of his routes down in Florida. The waitresses had an agreement to share any lottery winnings equally like they would any other tip, and in playful conversation with Seward, Dickerson said if they won, they'd each set some money aside to buy him a new truck. The pair laughed as Seward left. Then the day of the lottery came. Some of the other waitresses had tickets for it too. Of course, they all lost. All except Dickerson, who won $10 million. Now, for a video about unlucky lottery tickets, you're probably thinking that in the grand scheme of lottery tickets, this ticket sounds exceptionally not unlucky. But, well, Tonda Dickerson's story does not end here. Dickerson chose to receive the winnings in annual payments of $375,000 for 30 years. Now, with a guarantee that she was set for life, she understandably quit Waffle House. Don't nobody want to be working during no disaster. Her fellow waitresses were happy for her. For a time. After a while, they started to wonder when they were going to get their share, as was the agreement. When it became clear the answer to that question was never, Dickerson's former colleagues sued her ass. They alleged that the agreement to share lottery winnings was always in place and frequently discussed. They even brought in customers who had overheard them talking about it, thus forming an oral contract. In just 45 minutes, the court ruled against Dickerson, offering to let her keep $3 million worth of the winnings, but to share the rest. Tonda Dickerson rejected this and appealed the decision. In the year 2000, the matter went before the Alabama Supreme Court, who ruled that while there had been an oral contract to share the winnings, this contract was related to gambling, which is illegal in Alabama and thus not enforceable. Tonda Dickerson was keeping her winnings. Now, a lot of people regard going back on your word as a thing that's not nice to do. One of these people was Edward Seward, who was annoyed that Dickerson didn't share with her colleagues and also probably desperately bitter that he handed over $10 million in place of a few dollars tip. That's the sort of thing that keeps you up every night for the rest of your life. Seward also sued Dickerson, alleging she fraudulently misrepresented herself by accepting the ticket on the condition she'd share any earnings with the other staff, and she'd also promised him a truck. Where's the truck, Tonda? Tonda's defense was basically that that was just a throwaway comment made in jest. Seward's case was dismissed, and although he appealed it to Alabama's Supreme Court, he still lost. That might have been the end of Dickerson's legal woes, but life offers a wide range of woes for a person to experience. One of these woes was the return of Dickerson's ex-husband, Stacey Martin, who she had divorced in 1997. Martin had learned of Dickerson's big win, and just a few days after Seward's claim against her was rejected, he kidnapped her. Threatening to kill Tonda, Martin brought her to a secluded boat jetty. This is not going in a positive direction. While captive, Tonda's phone began to ring inside her purse. Martin allowed Tonda to answer the call for some reason. Reaching into her purse, Tonda pulled out a handgun and shot Martin. God bless America. Martin managed to wrestle the gun off Tonda and turn it against her. He threatened to shoot her, but now he had a bullet in the right side of his chest. Tonda urged him to abandon the abduction and seek immediate medical attention. Martin could see at this point continuing the kidnapping probably wouldn't have a good outcome for him. He went to hospital. Bizarrely, no charges were pressed against anyone for this incident. By now, Tonda Dickerson had been through the ringer. She'd been sued by former friends, although that was kind of her fault, kidnapped by her ex-husband and threatened with death, and now had a self-defense shooting under her belt. Winning the lottery could turn a lot of people against you, but Tonda Dickerson had defeated them all. What could she go through now that she hadn't already gone through? Who could possibly pose any threat to her that she hadn't already overcome? She'd had a gun pointed at her and still came away the victor. Who could top that? Who could be scarier than an armed and deranged ex-husband? Who could shake the unshakable, defeat the undefeatable, touch the untouchable? The IRS. You see, shortly after winning the lottery, Dickerson formed an S corporation in Florida to hold her winnings. This is often done by people with a lot of money for tax reasons, and was probably advised to Dickerson by an accountant. Having money in a corporation protects it from potential creditors, makes it easier to manage and consolidate, and allows for easier gifting, which is probably what Dickerson was looking for. She held 49% of the corporation's stock, and the other 51% was split between her parents and siblings. This 51% amounted to $2,412,388 at the time Dickerson transferred the shares to her family. The IRS looked at this and said, okay, you gave a gift of about $2 million. You have to pay us $771,570 in federal gift tax. Tonda Dickerson disagreed. Challenging the IRS, brave woman, Dickerson said she shouldn't have to pay the gift tax because it wasn't legally a gift for a number of reasons. One, she claimed she wasn't making a donation, but rather honouring a pre-existing agreement she apparently had with her family that they would split lottery winnings if any of them won. She was simply fulfilling an oral contract, which would be the first time, seeing as this agreement sounds very familiar to one she had before. Two, she argued that the corporation was actually the legal owner of the ticket and that her family, as shareholders, just happened to benefit from this relationship. And 3, even if the transfer could be considered a gift, which she argued it couldn't, but if that was the case, then the ticket was not as valuable as the IRS claimed. You might be wondering, how on earth could you possibly suggest that when it's easily verifiable how much the lottery winnings were worth, how she chose to receive payment, how much those payments were for, and when she received each payment. You see, when Dickerson transferred the money, she was still being sued by her ex-colleagues. With the lawsuit ongoing and the resolution still yet to be determined, Dickerson argued that the value of the ticket was diminished. Put it this way, if I had a $10 million ticket and offered it to you for $5 million, would you buy the ticket knowing it was at the centre of a lawsuit in which the winnings of the ticket could be split amongst the staff of a Waffle House? When Dickerson made the transfer, the ticket existed in a sort of Schrodinger's cat-like state, where it was potentially worth both $10 million and $3 million, depending on the outcome of the lawsuit. Therefore, the value of the ticket to an outside party was less than the IRS had accounted for. This legal battle went on for 13 years. In 2012, the tax court finally came to a decision. It was a fucking gift. Tonda. The whole oral contract thing is bullshit because, as you well know, Tonda, such a contract is unenforceable in a state where gambling is illegal, which Alabama is, which is where you agreed to the supposed contract. Tonda. And another thing, that whole corporation owns the ticket, not me, tee-hee-hee, is nonsense. We're the IRS. If money changes hands, we're having some of it. If you don't like that, well, that's too damn bad, Tonda. But of course, Dickerson had that argument over value if the transfer was a gift, which it was now recognised as. The tax court said, you know what, that is actually a good point. The ticket wasn't worth as much at the time as the IRS said it was. So instead of paying the gift tax on $2,412,388, she was ordered to pay the gift tax on $1,119,347.90. God only knows how they worked that out, but she now only had to pay tax on less than half the amount she was originally pegged for. So she even got a partial victory over the IRS. She fought everyone and won. Tonda Dickerson is like the honey badger of lottery winners, or the Waffle House of lottery winners. I mean, when the IRS gets involved in the story, that's usually where it all falls apart. The government always gets their money. It's pretty much the only thing they're good at. When you're up against the IRS, your magic 8-ball will tell you outlook not so good every single time. It just gets stuck. That lottery ticket came with some serious trials and tribulations. Sure, it was a big winner, but you had to go through all of that to get the money, and Tonda Dickerson came out the other side like, who's next? To be fair, now that I think of it, the kidnapping was the only part of that wasn't a direct consequence of her actions, so I guess you could say that Tonda was largely the architect for her own bad luck, but the ticket is what sent her down the path. That would still make it an unlucky ticket, right? Well, what do you think? Knowing what you know now, if you were put in her shoes when she got the ticket, would you want it? Would you handle things differently? If you like this video, I have many others in a similar style. You can watch them at your leisure or subscribe to see a new one every week. I'm also now on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram where I post minute-long videos, so you can follow me on these platforms if you'd like to see my magnificent content while you're browsing those crappy websites. Now you've got plenty to keep you busy till I make a new video next week, and until I do, stay safe. See this loser? She was slaving away at Waffle House to pay her bills and support her snot-nosed brat. Then she bought a lottery ticket and now she can...